All right, we're back. It's just me now, and it's time to finish up the build. So we've got a few things left, but I'm excited to tackle them. Now, we already got the power supply plugged in. We also got that Unifan controller plugged in. So really, we just have like the streamers and the graphics card, and we should be good. So we have like the 24 pin, which plugs into the motherboard, which is gonna also plug into a streamer. We have the GPU cables, which are right over here, that are also gonna plug into the streamer. And we have a SATA cable for the controllers, like the streamers and the Unifan controllers. And then we have a USB 2.0 cable, which comes out of the Unifan controller, which is also going to come out of the Lee & streamer cable. And that will also plug into a hub that I have here. So you're gonna need a USB 2.0 hub that allows you to plug in multiple devices into just one USB 2.0 cable. So let's go ahead and open up the Streamer Plus and get right to it. So we got the Streamer Plus, and so there should be a controller in each box, and I think you only need to use one. So I'm gonna figure out which controller I gotta use though. So here are the new Streamer Plus, and it looks like they're in plastic now, which is pretty awesome. So since this is a black case, we're gonna use the black brackets, but they do come with white brackets, which is really cool. Now, let's open up the GPU streamers so we can see if we have the right controller. Some more white brackets, a addressable RGB connector, which I don't think we need. So it looks like there is no controller actually in the double 8-pin streamer. So that's good. It makes it a lot easier and straightforward. Now let's get rid of this box too. All right, so I'm gonna plug the 24 pin in. I'm gonna bring it in just like that. I think you gotta bring it in. And we're not gonna plug it in. We just need the streamer to go in first. And then I'm gonna plug it in to the 24 pin streamer, just like this. These take a lot of force, so definitely don't be surprised. All right, so we got the GPU cable plugged into the streamer. It was kind of really tight, so you just got to make sure you take your time with it, and also make sure the actual like pins on the cable are straighter. So you're just gonna feed it through one of these holes, preferably the top one, and you'll see it coming out over there. I'm gonna go ahead and feed the whole thing through, even part of the black cable, so I have a ton of space. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and it's gonna plug in right here into the 24 pin that's on the motherboard. So we're gonna go ahead and plug it in just like that. And you're just gonna line it up and you're just gonna push in. And sometimes you'll hear a click, just like that. I'm not sure if that caught on camera, but I heard a click right there. And then you're just gonna pull it back. So we got the streamer through. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna plug in my USB 2.0 hub, because we need to install this hub before we can install the vertical mount, otherwise we won't be able to reach. So let's open up the vertical mount and the graphics card. These are the last two things I need to open up before we have everything we need. When you're at the end of the PC, it's important to do things the right steps, so definitely take your time. Now, I think it's mostly related to the high-end builds though, like this one. So just be careful of the way you do things and in which order. And don't be afraid to just open up the other parts too to get a better idea of the way things are gonna fit. So I'm gonna go and open up the vertical mount plus the cable that comes with it. And let's show how to install a vertical mount. Now, before we do that, we wanna take out all of our expansion slots over here on the case as a result, so that the vertical mount can fit. These expansion slots are where peripherals like your graphics card or an Elgato or your vertical mount or a Wi-Fi card plug in. So you have a PCIe Express 16 slot, which is for your graphics card. Then you have some of the other slots which some of the other devices can go into. So these brackets are just what covers them. So if you use an item that's for this slot, you would just remove this and this bracket. Okay, so we have our PCIe 4.0 cable, it's the riser cable for the graphics card that's gonna allow us to be vertically mounted but still plugged into the motherboard. It's gonna screw in here and it's gonna plug into the motherboard here. So let's go ahead and screw it in. It comes with screws right here. Nice. So you have 2 screws and you have 2 screw holes right here. So you have 2 holes on the bracket and you have 2 holes on the riser. So one thing to note is I would highly recommend having a magnetic screwdriver. This thing saves me a ton of time. These complex PCs need 2 people most of the time. So if you're doing it yourself, you better have a magnetic screwdriver. So we got this screwed in. Now let's go ahead and open up the graphics card so that we can really get an idea of the footprint of the rest of the build. I talked about this graphics card a little bit already, but again, I am very excited to see the performance. It's like a 3070 Ti in performance, I believe. Here we have the card. This is made by Gigabyte or Oris. They have been making cards for quite some time. Okay, so here is the 6750 XT. Okay, so let's get this USB hub in there. Let's get the streamer hub set up. Gonna feed the cable down for the USB hub. This way we at least have it plugged in. All right guys, so we just inserted the USB 2.0 hub. It's right down there if you guys can see it. I haven't plugged in the devices yet, which are just for example, this one. So it would plug in right there, and then the other streamers will also plug in right there, and then we're good. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do right now. I think I'm going to go ahead and first just peel off the plastic here. Got that, and we got that. And I'm going to then take the USB 2.0 cable from the streamers and plug that in. And then we're gonna figure out where to plug this in. This cable is for the addressable RGB to the motherboard, but we're gonna again connect it through USB so we can use Li and Li L-Connect to see it. And let's get to work. So the streamer, there's one for the 24 pin, one for the 8 pin. So let's go ahead and plug this in. We'll leave it out like this. Now in terms of where to store it, I may just want to put it like on top of my Unifan connector. So I put the PC on its back for the GPU installation. Very easy that way. I would highly recommend. So let's plug in the graphics card into the vertical mount. Now you have the ports right here for your graphics card. They always look the same. They're like yellow pins, and you're gonna take these brackets off and you'll have way less issues. Identify the slot or the port on the vertical mount, and it's gonna insert straight into, there you go. Click in, just like that. You always want to hang it off the table so your prongs are not interfering, and there it is. Now you have secured the holes. I feel it getting very tight, which is nice. Okay, now let's go ahead and install our vertical mount. The first thing to do is you push the clip down on the motherboard. You always want to use the first port on every motherboard for your graphics card, whether it's the graphics card itself or the riser. You want to plug it in slowly. It's going to click in. Just like that. Easy click. Then you're going to fold it, crunch the cable on itself. Just like that, just like that. Keep crunching. There's different ways of installing it too. You can also crunch it like that. Sometimes that works better. So just make sure you got the right bend going, and you just want to insert it just like that. You want to make sure the cable doesn't look too bent, and it actually kind of does. So you push the cable in a little bit. Just make sure you're good, make sure you're good. Make sure these brackets are aligned just like that. Look how aligned they look. And then you want to screw in from the top with your screwdriver on the 3 screws. Just keep threading. You should be able to locate the screw. You don't want to screw too hard because you may cause some damage. And there you go. The graphics card is installed. One thing I would recommend is, you see how there's a gap here for the bracket and a gap back here for the bracket as well? You should fill those gaps now. So take the old brackets that you had, like these 2, and take 3 of the screws. You need 2 brackets and 3 screws to fill all the holes that are apparent now because of our installation. So let's take the first one, install it right here through the gap. Here we have an empty screw, but not an empty bracket, so just fill that as well. There you go. And we have one more bracket to go. All right, so let's also start feeding the GPU cables out towards the GPU. Now remember, we only need 2, but I installed a third one just in case we ever upgrade to like a 6900 XT or any other graphics card that requires such cabling. We are going to now plug in the strimmer into the graphics card. So let's talk about how it plugs in. So you have a 6-pin and a 2-pin, and they combine to make an 8-pin. Now most graphics cards have just 8 pins, so you're always required to do this little combination. Now some graphics cards like this have an 8-pin and a 6-pin. So I'm gonna have this one be complete and this one be broken off. So it's gonna look just like that when it plugs in. So let's go ahead and plug it in just like, start with the 8-pin. Just like that, it's in. Now let's plug in the actual power supply cables into the other end of the strimmer. All right, now we're gonna feed it through. Feed the strimmer cable through, just like that. And then let's bring everything back through. Now this is not an easy task, so take your time. You just gotta figure out how to pull back all of the brackets. Bullseye. Cable management time. I'm pushing the GPU cables into a good area to cable manage. Let's plug in everything that is remaining. So we need to get this USB cable plugged in right over here. There's not much space, so let's be very tight. I don't know what the camera is able to collect right now, but what I'm just trying to let you know is plug it into the USB 2.0 hub. Now we got to plug in the SATA from the 2 connectors. To recap, the Lian Li Unifan and the Lian Li Strimmer connector need power from the power supply to function. All right, so I just finished up the last SATA cable for the 2 connectors. I got them stashed in right here. And I will say this was a very difficult build overall in terms of wanting it, you know, presentable in the front and just making sure all the cables are correctly managed back here, and that you're also able to make adjustments, you know, like I left an extra third triple 8-pin in case you upgrade a GPU. I have some good access to the ports on the connectors right here. The USB hub is down here. A lot of the main cables like the motherboard, the CPU, and the GPU are like bunched in the middle. But honestly, I'm pretty happy with this. Let's turn it on and see what the hard work has equated to. So we plug it in. I'm gonna face it towards you guys, like right here, but I do want to adjust the strimmer cables a tiny bit. They are a bit uneven, which is fixable though. They're always fixable. Lastly, we need to install our RAM. So our RAM goes in only one way, and since we're only using 2 sticks, we're gonna put them in slots 2 and 4. There's a long stripe of pins and there's a short stripe of pins. And on the motherboard, there's a long slot and a short slot. So you're gonna align the short one with the top one, and in this case, the short one goes on the bottom. We're gonna open up our latch on the top of the ports, and we're gonna insert into slot 2. Right there, and right there. You're gonna wait for them both to sit in the slot like that without using force. And this way, the force will only be directed towards the slot. And so you're gonna push on the bottom first, just like that, and you're gonna push on the top right after. And you're gonna do the same for slot 4. So you have the long side and the short side. You're gonna flip it over, and so the short side's on the bottom, You're gonna locate slot 4. Install it like that, install it like that. Push down and push down. And there you go. All right, so it's time to turn this thing on. The only thing that's left is like the panels, which you can do after you're done like setting up the PC. So in the back, you first need to make sure that your power supply switch is on the I or the 1 and not the 0. So right now it's on the 0. So we're gonna press it on the 1 and we're gonna see some electricity already being flown through the PC over here. So now if we turn it on with our power button in the front, we should be good to go. So there you go. And make sure every LED is functioning, like every part that you were expecting to have RGB is actually turning on. And yeah, then it's just time to appreciate the beauty.